So Trump has found a very creative way to make you pay for the White House renovations. We all know that he's demolishing the White House right now to pay for a new ballroom. It's going to cost upwards of $200 million. In which he promised that he was going to pay for it. It just so happens to be that he is suing the Department of Justice for the same amount that it costs to renovate the fucking White House. Take a look.
And it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. In other words, did you ever have one of those cases where you have to decide how much you're paying yourself in damages?
I don't know. I'm going to take a wild guess here. Is it around $200 and something million? Oh, you can't make this stuff up. To renovate the White House, it's going to be about $250 million. And he's suing the Department of Justice for $230 million. We are living in an episode of South Park.
The MAGA excuses for Trump basically destroying the entire East Wing of the White House are actually very funny to me. But Obama built a basketball court. Guys, he drew some lines on a tennis court. Donald Trump is literally taking a bulldozer and destroying half of the White House after telling people that he wasn't going to touch the East Wing. By the way, as a reminder, the White House doesn't belong to Donald Trump. It does not belong to one particular person or president. It belongs to the people. Oh no, I'm just gonna build my ballroom and destroy the entire East Wing. It's despicable. It really is. You see those images, you see those videos, and again, the excuses of, well, Obama did it or FDR did it. FDR had congressional approval with congressional funds, not bribes from Fortune 500 companies and crypto CEOs. It's just an absolute joke. Truly a joke.
In front of the facade of the White House, it is not being obliterated as Donald Trump, who promised that he was not going to take a wrecking ball to the existing structure, has taken a wrecking ball to existing structure. I got to say, Meek, it really is. It is hard to watch that, and it's hard to believe that any president could destroy the White House and take a wrecking ball to an existing structure so historic. That is what's happening. It'd be one thing if you were building on or you were doing things inside, but to take literally a wrecking ball to the White House, it's grotesque. It's just grotesque.
Yeah, and this after the Rose Garden and I guess the patio that they have put in, which you could argue, but this
far different.
Is painful. I mean, this is historic structure.
It's history being torn to shreds. And again, is everybody? I mean, so if somebody wants to go into the White House, the next person wants to just knock down all the walls and turn it into a disco. Congress can't do anything. I mean, seriously, you're destroying like one of the most historic structures on the planet.
Yeah. And the cost.
And are we saying that whoever we elect president has the right to destroy, just tear things up, tear it to the ground, turn it into something else? Kind of crazy.
I don't think it's not your home that you purchased in Jersey.
No, it's not yours. You rent it from the American people for 4 years.
Breaking news, Donald Trump is now tearing down the entire east wing of the White House. That, according to the Washington Post today. You can see it here looking like a scene out of 9/11. Now, what has people so upset are a number of things. One, Trump is just doing this without telling anybody. We didn't find out until this morning, until it was leaked, that he's tearing down the entire wing of the White House. I mean, they're saying, oh, every other president has done renovations. Every other president announced their renovations. First of all, they didn't sneak it through. You sneak stuff through when you're breaking the law, when you're committing a crime, when you're doing something unethical, when you're doing something you don't want to be caught. That's when you sneak it through. Second of all, every other president went through Congress. They went through the historic preservation folks. They went to make sure that it was staying in regards to the look and feel of the rest of the White House. This monstrosity he's building is bigger than the White House itself. This ballroom is going to engulf everything in the area and overshadow the White House entirely. Third, They're supposed to go through the historic preservation people. They're supposed to talk to people and find out what the size is, right? What the look and feel is. Fourth, the money. He claims he's accepting $250 million from rich donors, from businesses and others. Is he? Where's the money coming from? He won't tell us. Who's giving how much? He won't tell us. Who's collecting the money in the government? He won't tell us. Is all the money going for this? He won't tell us. He then claims that, he's putting in some of his own money? The biggest cheapskate on the planet is not putting in his own money to build this. That's not happening. So unethical, so inappropriate. This is not his house. This is our house. And he does not care because he's all about himself. That's why he's doing this. That's why he's knocking it down. It is yet another corrupt move from Donald Trump and yet another move that Republicans refuse to stand up to this man. There is nothing he won't stop at doing.
What do you think about it as an American who's been looking at that White House for 97 years?
I'm absolutely furious with him.
Why? He's the president. Doesn't he get to do what he wants to do?
No, he doesn't. He has to respect the public, the people who have supported him. They need support.
Right,
Not a contradiction.
What about him building a ballroom? Isn't that going to be nice?
No.
Why not?
Because they're not there to dance.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Frederick Polk here. So images came out yesterday of, Donald Trump tearing up the East Wing in the White House. The photo with the, the not the forklift, but the crane just, ripping it apart. And, of course, this was for his gaudy ballroom that he's building, much like he's done to the Oval Office. That's supposedly being funded by private donors, even though he won't release the list of who these private donors are. Maybe Qatar. I don't have any evidence for that, but maybe. The bigger issue at play here is these are attacking our symbols. And that's very important, especially when you're trying to control a narrative. This, besides the AI videos of Donald Trump dropping a bunch of feces on protesters in New York and, him wearing a king, this is absolutely a move saying, this isn't your house, the people's house, this is my house. Because every president, maybe with the exception of Nixon, knew that they were not going to be in that office forever. They might add an addition here, or they might, maybe make a little change that is their little stamp, but they were part of history moving through it. That's what being the president of the United States is supposed to be. You're not supposed to put your name on it. You're not supposed to put anybody's name on it. It's the house of the people. And Donald Trump and the Republicans and MAGA have changed all of that. They don't care about being part of an American tradition. They don't care about serving the country. Donald Trump, and just like all of his sycophants, they're just in it for themselves. And that's why this is gross. That's why no matter what happens, even if that ballroom is completed, and even if it's done with private donors, and a Democratic president or whoever comes afterwards and takes all the name plaques and everything down, if that structure still stands, it will always be a reminder of that. Just like him tearing up the Rose Garden, just like all this stuff. It's gross. It's horrible. And hopefully, when the next person gets in there, we can change all that and never let it happen again. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Keep the faith, defend democracy, and I'll see you later.
It is official. Donald Trump has now commenced the tearing down of the East Wing in the White House to make room for his ballroom. Let me just disabuse you Republicans of something really quick, because I've been seeing it all day. Past presidents, whether it's Theodore Roosevelt, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and the list goes on, who wanted to make massive renovations to the White House got congressional approval. You want to know if Donald Trump does? He doesn't. Not an iota of congressional approval to make these types of renovations. Furthermore, Dwight D. Eisenhower made massive renovations on the White House to prevent its collapse. The structural integrity of the White House was compromised, and it had to be done to preserve it. Another major difference. This silly, goofy ballroom that Donald Trump is building really for himself could have been built somewhere else. That is the cold, deep, dark, dangerous truth. So before you guys try to make some equivalency to past presidents, understand the facts. Everything that this president touches, he ruins. And it's all to give glory to himself. This is wrong on so many levels, and I just want to make this clear. Donald Trump does not have congressional approval for this.
Okay, I need y'all to know how serious this is. By now, I know all or most of us have seen that Trump has started demolishing the East Wing of the White House to build his ballroom. The White House isn't just another government building. It's a protected historic landmark. And there are laws in place that say that there are reviews that need to happen prior to any major construction like this. But as we've seen, the demolition has already started without it being signed off by the National Capital Planning Commission. To think a president is just tearing down walls, erasing history without any public input and without any input from the preservation review or anything signed off even. This is unheard of. And all to build a ballroom while there are families in America that are so food insecure and that benefits are going to be cut off from, while everybody's insurance premium is rising. And they're building a ballroom and they're knocking down the outside structure of the people's house. This is history forever erased. And all I can say is I am so grateful that my daughter was able to take a trip to DC this past summer with her dad and see the White House as it was, because I unfortunately have never had that opportunity, and it'll never be the same again. The damage is already done. I don't care if you're into politics or not. This man is erasing history, and he is changing our country forever.
Hello and good afternoon. In today's edition of As the White Hood Turns, we're going to talk about this ballroom. So we know the ballroom is going to be over $250 million. They're also expanding it from the size that it was. So basically, it's going to be approximately 90,000 square feet, which is actually more than the White Hood itself. You know what I'm saying, right? So a lot of people are upset because they say he's just basically turning it into another, Mar-a-Lago, right? And that while people are losing health care, gas prices still sky high, groceries still sky high, and he's spending all of this money building this ballroom. Well, Alyssa Farrow, one of the panelists on The View, said today that she thinks the reason he's building this ballroom is because he's jealous of King Charles. He's jealous because the royals have a grand ballroom where they host their dinners and when dignitaries come and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. That's fine. But why you got to tear up the people's stuff? Why you couldn't have just built that in Mar-a-Lago and just stay down there? Anybody ask you for that? Then the Republicans are trying to push back and say, well, none of this is taxpayer money. It's all donations. Donations from who? The millionaires and billionaires that are trying to get whatever passed in Congress so that he can sign off on it, right? You know, like how he got them people to give him 10% of Intel and NVIDIA. That part. We're not making any money off of it. Us, when I say we, I mean the Americans, peoples. We're not getting any of that. And we damn sure ain't going to that ballroom, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure it's still going to be dry chicken and nasty mashed potatoes, because I just can't even see that he would serve anything delicious. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah, that actually makes sense to me. Because he really does feel like he's royalty and he's a king. So that makes sense. Okay.
Donald Trump has ordered employees to stop taking pictures and videos of the destruction of the White House caused by him building a large ballroom on the grounds. Trump had previously promised that his ballroom wasn't going to impinge on the current White House structure. He lied. They took a wrecking ball to it yesterday. That's literally the White House you're looking at with the huge hole in the side. Trump's press secretary came out yesterday and called everybody losers for caring about the structural history of the White House. This piece of history goes back to 1902, that this was built 123 years of American history wiped out by a man who wanted a ballroom. Additionally, they removed a bunch of historic trees. They're gone. A bunch of historic items. They're gone. God knows where they are. Then there's the question of the money. Who's paying for this? Trump claims it's private companies. Which private companies? He's only named a few. Why isn't he named all of them? Why don't we know exactly how much money is coming in? Why don't we know who in his administration is handling the money? What's the legal process for accepting this money? How do we know some of it's not being skimmed off the top? This is incredibly inappropriate what's taking place. Again, this horrible monstrosity he's building is going to be the size of the existing White House itself.
The Democrats are upset because Trump is so unconstrained and he's so ambitious and he's wielding executive power so confidently. And none of their presidents ever did. And nothing they can do can check his power. They feel like they've squandered the opportunity in the executive office to do grand things, to make peace deals, to redo the World Trade Order. And they're looking at a guy who they thought was just like a pockmark in history, come back and be a consequential president. And he's so consequential, he's leaving a symbolic and physical legacy right there on the footprint of the most hallowed grounds in Washington, D.C., and they can't wrap their head around it.
No president of either party should unilaterally be able to decide to destroy part of the people's house. It is erasing history. It belongs to us. The President of the United States is a temporary occupant of the White House. It does not belong to them. They should not be able to decide to literally tear part of it down. And I honestly would love to play the game right now of imagine Fox News if Barack Obama had done this. I'll wait.
Anyone else find it kind of odd that the same folks who have spent the last 5 years or so screaming about Confederate statues needing to stay up because they care so much about history haven't said a fucking word about King Cankle sending a wrecking crew to the East Wing of the White House? I just cannot grasp the cognitive dissonance involved in not giving a flying motherfuck that the guy you voted for is going to be sitting in a gilded ballroom with all of his billionaire buddies while you can barely afford your goddamn bills. I mean, shit, fire and save matches, folks. I don't understand how these sumbitches have the ability to stand up straight. It sure don't come from having a spine in their back. American citizens are struggling to put food on their tables and provide for their families, and you're just fine with the Fanta fascist and all of his friends stuffing their faces from overflowing fucking plates. President Pol Pot and friends are going to be dining in fucking opulence while you or someone you fucking know will be trying to figure out which bill they can afford to pay first and which one's getting the late fee. Farmers have food rotting in fields right now because they were fucked over in the tangerine tyrant's temper tantrum of a trade war, and you're telling us to fret not because at least our felonious leader of the free world will have a place for him and his friends to fucking feast. Y'all are so fucking pathetic that sometimes I don't understand how we come from the same species. The sheer thought of trying to put myself into the mindset of supporting this shit makes me sick to my stomach. You have all failed as people and should be ashamed to show your faces in public for the rest of forever. Rest of y'all have you a wonderful motherfucking day. Keep the motherfucking boots out of your motherfucking mouth, and remember that the golden rule will always remain ye all fuck the law. I love y'all, and I'll see you down the line.
So we have to talk about this picture right here. If you don't know what this is the demolition crew outside the East Wing of the White House, where the $250 million, 90,000 square foot ballroom Donald Trump wants to add on to the White House is going to be. And there's been a lot of talk about how this White House looks, that Trump is trying to make the White House look like Mar-a-Lago or his sort of style, which people have called dictator chic. But the thing that's happening here, and the most important thing I think right now, is that the White House doesn't belong to the president, though Trump has been acting as if it does. The White House is technically the people's house, and the president is just an occupant of it. He is a unrenting renter for the amount of time that they're in office. And this is from the White House Historical Association, that Congress has always been tasked with appropriating funds for the care, repair, refurnishing, and maintenance of the White House. And now how that money gets spent is generally up to the president and the chief usher of the White House, the chief staff. But in 1961, Congress passed a public law that said all the furnishings of the White House were the property of the White House, basically making the White House a museum and extended legal protections to donated things that were in the White House during that point in time, but basically making the White House a museum. The reason this matters is that Trump's ballroom is being privately paid for. So there's that end of it, right? We are not paying that thing. But demolishing part of what is effectively under law a museum in which he does not own is something entirely differently. So it's really unclear if this addition here, or this destruction to create an addition, is legal.
I'm having an emotional reaction that I need TikTok to talk me through when it comes to the destruction that is going on to the actual physical White House in order for this man to build this monstrosity on it. And this man who has no business even being set foot in there, let alone making any sort of permanent changes to this structure that is supposed to embody our democracy, in which he is slowly not even slowly, quickly dismantling, literally brick by brick. I find it so upsetting, more upsetting than most of the things that I've seen him do, which is interesting to me that I would have this reaction. But the fact is, he is just the worst. And all of the things that I thought our government stood for, even on its worst days, pale in comparison to what this administration has done. And I know, and I've said this before in other posts, like, I know their time will come where they will be sitting there in front of a jury of us, the peers, and we, the people, will send them away to prison for a very long time, or, you know, if he makes it that far. I know it, because there's been too much that they have chosen to do that is quite terrible. And I mean, we can go from lying under oath to killing people in the middle of the ocean where we have no reason to even take these lives. Like, he's a murderer. He's a murderer, plain and simple. And giving our hard-earned tax dollars to countries. You know, he says make America great again, but he's ruined it. And what he's done, more so than anything else, that has broken my heart, I would say even more than the physical changes he is making to the White House, is how he has stolen my ability to trust our judicial system, my ability to trust our justice system, my ability to trust our government. He has stolen that from me, and I feel extraordinarily angry about that. And when I come on here and I show I'm more positive and optimistic about things, I want you to know that there is a part of me that is just so angry, and choosing to not be is a daily struggle. However, I will not let them win in that department. Man, I don't know what it is about that image. It breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. Anyway.
Let me tell y'all who we all got fucked up. Trump. Because that motherfucker don't give a damn about nothing. As of right now, he's tearing down the east wing of the White House to build a fucking ballroom. Okay? And if you think for one goddamn minute that he gives a fuck about what we think, he don't. And keep in mind, it's already a ballroom in the White House. But he says that ballroom only holds 200 people. The one that he's building is going to hold 900 people for an even bigger party. Yeah. He don't give a shit what we think. He's going to do whatever the fuck he want to do, when he want to do it, how he want to do it. And we all knew this. Now, what's funny to me is the people that voted for him didn't think that he would go through these extent and extreme of fucking shit up and showing his naked ass. So as of right now, pray. We are only 10 months in to his 4-year term, and he done already turned us every which way but loose. Okay? So could you only imagine how things are going to look in the next 3 years? I'm curious to see what he going to do next. But you know, at this point in time, nothing seems to surprise me. It don't surprise me.
So I'm just leaving the White House, and I know we say the word unprecedented a lot, but this one really would be unprecedented. Sources tell us that President Trump is pushing for the federal government to pay him $230 million. This would be compensation for the federal investigations he faced. The president claims the federal government owes him. You remember the president filed 2 claims against the Justice Department for investigations he faced in 2023 and one last year. The first was the investigation into Russian meddling. The second was those classified documents that the president took from the White House to his Mar-a-Lago estate and had stored in a storage area, even the bathroom and the ballroom. But if this settlement were to go through, the president of the United States would collect about $250 million of taxpayer money. And what makes this even more unprecedented, the officials at the Department of Justice that would likely have to sign off on this once served as the president's personal attorneys. So our team asked the Justice Department about this, and they said they would follow the advice and counsel of career ethics officials.
Hey guys, did you see this photo today? Yeah, this is circulating online right now. This morning, without any approval from Congress, historic preservation organizations, anyone in government, Donald J. Trump began tearing down the east wing of the White House. Originally built in 1902 by Teddy Roosevelt, expanded to 2 stories in the 1940s under Franklin D. Roosevelt, Trump, just without any oversight, began tearing down the building that houses the First Lady's offices and much more. All this being done with no congressional approval at all. That's right. The House Republicans and the Senate have done no hearings, no oversight, no investigations, no approval plans. Donald Trump has just simply said he's got $250 million in donors. We don't know who they are. And they're going to build a massive ballroom on our property, taxpayers' property, historic property, the United States government property. And why? Because he can. Because the House Republicans are simply a doormat for Trump. There's no House right now. The Republican Congress is worse than Harry Truman's do-nothing Congress. This is the no-existence Congress. Mike Johnson hasn't even held a session in 3 weeks. No hearings, no oversight, certainly no criticism of Donald Trump. My member of Congress, my opponent, Ann Wagner, she's at home doing interviews on the little TV, going to visit donors every couple of days, acting like she cares. Has she called for an investigation? Has she just asked questions? Who's paying for this ballroom? We deserve to know. It's our house. And the House Republicans, no interest whatsoever in doing their jobs. This isn't a do-nothing Congress. Like I said, this is a non-existent Congress. They're a floor mat. They're a doormat at Trump Inc. that he walks over back and forth. But we, the people, that's our house. That's why I'm running for Congress, because we need a Congress that does their job, provides oversight for the executive branch, does things like find out who the hell's paying to tear down the White House. We should know that. That's why I'm running. Learn more about our campaign, wellman4mo.com, because we deserve representation in Washington that represents us first and foremost. wellman4mo.com. It never ends, but you know what? We're not done yet. We're just getting started.